All right. Well, good morning, my friends. I'm thrilled to be with you. And it is always a pleasure and a deep, deep honor. And this idea of faith is with us all the time. It should be. It's already there, even if we don't think we are using faith per se. And the reason for it to be used is because there are an unlimited number of possibilities in life. We know this already, but sometimes we don't quite feel it. My suggestion, and it's borne out with daily life in all faith traditions, is that if we feel the emotions associated with what we want, we will have a better chance of having our prayers answered or our dreams fulfilled. So feeling the emotions of what we want is a big deal. We want to feel the faith in a positive way. If we're going to feel anything, of course, we want to manifest. We want to use the power of God, the power of the universe, to manifest what we desire. And this is going to happen, I believe, with the proper emotions in place. And with faith, as an artist, as a musician, I'm aware that faith is really going to be important in the future. Now, if you are reading the paper now and then, on 1 October, Friday, we had the Washington Post, an article, "This is Our Cultural Heritage." And it was a tremendous eye-opener for artists all over the world to see what can happen if we don't pay attention. And we have the oppression of artists around the world, even in a small way. But through faith, we're going to make ourselves stronger, and those among us who are artists, which includes writing, choreography, music on all instruments, the composing of music on all instruments. All of these realms of creativity, visual arts, certainly, all of these are going to tell society what's really happening. If we want to see what society is doing, we look at the graffiti, we look at the poetry, we look at the off Broadway being produced, small groups, and then we're going to see what artists are really up to. And this might include open mic events too. That's where we can put our fingers on the pulse. So having gone through all of that, I was thinking, drawing from my grab bag mind, I thought I would share some research tools in our faith traditions so that we can be mindful of how to get more information that is good and reliable. I want to start with the oldest spirituality. Now, I'm still going to be visible to you on camera, but I'm going to open my file. I put together some ideas, and can you still see my face, everybody? Okay. Too bad for you. Well, the idea of religion, goes back to about maybe 200,000 years ago. 200,000 years ago with the Neanderthal people. Homo erectus was the name of our ancestors, the Neanderthals. And they had religious ceremony going on as far back as that. And it's good to know this because in our faith tradition with unity, we rely heavily on the Bible, both Old and New Testaments, and we rely heavily on supporting literature about the Bible. And in the Jewish faith, of course, they don't know the term, or rather they don't use the term New Testament because they are reading mostly the Torah, the 5 books that Moses wrote. He wrote on 3 levels. He wrote for the scientist, he wrote for the lay person, and he wrote for the person of faith. And so from those 5 books, the Jew will feel that she or he has what they need. And that's fine. I believe you can find infinity in all of the faith traditions literature. So I thought I'd show some and talk a little bit about some of the literature available. Now you have a recording here. You may email me for anything I talk about. I'm very approachable. These subjects are among my favorite in the world. So one set of books I found, and they're probably in a well-stocked library, is a set of 14 volumes called The Sacred Books and Early Literature of the East. And it's a tremendous set of books. And in my own home library, I have accumulated a lot of literature in my computer. I've searched for some of these things in PDF form, permanent data file. And this is a little bit obsolete, but I have accumulated the literature onto CDs with a little index. And so this is my grab and go library. And this probably represents about 15 linear feet of shelf space in my library. So if I grab it and go, I won't be completely bereft. So this set of books, The Sacred Books and Early Literature of the East, was edited by Max Muller, a German-born philologist and Orientologist, a tremendous scholar. And in front of each of the volumes, he has a quotation that I find is really marvelous. He says, "There never was a false God, nor was there ever a really false religion, unless you call a child a false man." I have to read it again. Bear with me. There never was a false God, nor was there ever really a false religion, unless you call a child a false man. So in a sense, we're all infants. In some level, we're all looking for a way to have a better connection with the divine. And this started 200,000 years ago. And so that's a very powerful tool if you're curious. We're all curious. We are curious because the world is out there. We're curious because the eyes on the human being are on the front of the face. And this gives us depth perception. And this gives us the idea that we can make plans, making plans in the future. How far away is that object? How far away is that food item? How can we get to the next goal? And these are assisted with eyes on the front of the head. We're going to bear that in mind. So coming forward from these very early ideas about faith, we have a number of important faith traditions. The oldest faith tradition is said to be Zoroastrianism. And their holy book is the Avesta. And the Avesta consists of hymns, prayers, and ritual instructions. Now, those three items are occurring in all of the spiritual literature of the world. The maybe the secular path of Confucianism, they have their Analects of Confucius. In Taoism, they have the Tao Te King, very valuable collection of wisdom. Hinduism, they have the Bhagavad Gita and the Dhammapada of Buddhism. Islam has the Holy Quran. Sikhism has the Guru Granth Sahib. Baha'i faith has their holy book. Now that brings us back to the Bible, because if you are assiduously, see, I was trying to be cool here. If you assiduously apply the laws of all religions, you're going to come to a basic code of life that will work for everyone. Everyone. And on the top of the list will be, do no harm. Medics know about this. Doctors know about this law. First, do no harm. Ahimsa is the Sanskrit term. So another set of books that you could download if you want to is the Oriental Literature, and that's a set of books. Email me on this subject, because the literature is out there for you to have. Going to the libraries, asking for interlibrary loan objects can be very important. And here's another tool, the interlinear library. interlinear Bible. Let's see. I'm going to minimize this. Bear with me now. I'm hobbling through a faith tradition here to get everything going well. Okay. One moment. Let's see. Video. Okay. Sometimes the internet is not going to be very good here. All right. Talking, John, it says. Okay, now, bear with me. Oh. Neil, why don't you chime in if you don't mind, my friend? Can you hear me?
Yeah, what's up, John?
Thank you. I'm not sure about my audio and video. I cannot seem to get the screen to show myself.
I made you co-host. That should help.
Okay, now. Stand by.
For the recording, this is a little bit of divine order technical difficulty, which we experience on a regular basis here at Unity Center of Peace in Northern Virginia and elsewhere throughout the world. This message has been brought to you today by Zoom.
It's lovely.
And Zach.
Oh, we need everybody. And Zach, you're on the short list, my brother. Holy moly. Now, the idea of getting the video up here is important to me. I know you hear me. I'm looking for camera. And it's just not happening for me. I apologize for this. Technically, I checked everything this morning. Zoom was working fine on my big computer. And now the nightmare is that I cannot get this back.
Well, John, your talk is about having faith.
Okay.
Right.
Let me resume.
So let us pray.
And I'm on camera?
We see you.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to rely on my own faith in this, and I'm going to resume. This book, the Interlinear Library book, the Interlinear Bible, has Greek in the New Testament, and then word for word, a translation, and then an interpretation, and all visible at the same time. And in the Old Testament, or the Torah, the Old Testament will have the Hebrew, and also word for word translation, and then an interpretation. So this is valuable when you want to check on what the words really were in the Old Testament. A powerful tool for Bible scholars. Another tool that's very important, I believe, is this volume, World Scripture, a comparative anthology of sacred texts. Now, I've consulted this lots of times. I've given away a few topics, a few of these volumes too, but the topics are arranged in the book, and then within each topic, you have what the different faith traditions say on that subject. So that's a tremendous resource. What did the Buddhists all say under the subject of peace? So all of the world faiths, there are about 135 scholars who contributed and helped to edit this volume. So it's available to you. World Scripture, a comparative anthology. That's another powerful tool. Now, why would we use any of these tools? It's to keep intellectual pursuits alive. Sometimes I think we rely too much on the memes we see. Maybe if you're a Facebook fan, I'm on Facebook. I'll admit it. it's sometimes a little trivial. But we want to check the quotations we see, because very often they're coming to us third hand, fourth hand, and they are misquoted. Even scholars make those mistakes. So that's the idea of having a reference library for yourself, so that you can observe firsthand what the original quotes were. You know, in my pursuit of education, which is ongoing, in my master's program, we had the assignment to take 3 scholarly articles, 3 articles that were written in different journals, 3 different journals, where the articles were refereed by peers. Other scholars read your article and they determine, should the article appear in our journal or not? Well, we each took 3 articles. I did mine too. And you know, 3 out of 3 articles, when I checked their footnotes, meaning when they listed their sources, I went to the source and I checked what the wording was of each of the quotes. And all 3 of the articles had errors in quoting from the source. Sometimes it was only a comma. Sometimes it was a whole word that was misdefined. So we can't rely only on the media, because people are getting some of these things wrong. So by going to the sources, by going to the quote at the bottom of our daily word today, go to Hebrews and look at that quotation, and then look at other editions of the Bible and see how that subject was dealt. How was it dealt? So these are powerful tools, I believe. And another idea about doing your own research is that it enriches the mind. And it's in my age group, we're all very interested in keeping our minds active. You know, you might think that your memory is faltering a little bit, so you use it. You use it. You make the synapses of your nerves connect. You produce those hormones and those chemical reactions in your brain that will preserve your knowledge. And then you cross-reference that knowledge, going across the different holy books, going across the bodies of knowledge. So some of you are visual artists, I know, and at least 3 of us are journaling regularly. I think that's an important idea, because the journaling idea is to enrich your life by seeing what you're thinking about day to day. One of the journaling methods I use 2 major ones. One is the idea of doing morning pages. Write 3 pages every morning. And that's going to give you a flow. It's an intellectual flow, a spiritual flow if you want it to be. And it's going to allow you to record some of your thoughts. And in my own journal, I also use the intensive journal program. And this is a journal system that has many chapters to include dreams, recording your dreams, to include stepping stones to list for how you came to this moment in your life. So it's a terrific system, intensive journal program. And you can email me again. I welcome your inquiries. And the other one is the simplest 3 pages in the morning, which I mentioned. And I'm doing that too. Some people think they can't write. Yes, you can. If you can write a grocery list, yes, you can write. I want to show you something. Sometimes people have a writer's block. Well, too bad. Here's the way you deal with a writer's block. You get yourself a block. You like it? This happens to be a center cut. That means the center of the tree was carved down, and I bought a whole length of this from my yoga studio, and I cut it into sections for people to use in yoga postures. But I'm showing this because I took a problem and I used it. And in this block is embodied, if that's the term, a whole set of ideas. I patched it a little bit. I sanded it down. I rubbed it with oil, and all the while thinking about how the tree was planted. I don't know how old it is because the extremities are carved away now, cut away. How did it come into being? Where is this from? Who cut the tree down? What mill cut down the lengths of the 4x6. How did this come to be? In my possession, it's just a block of wood, but it's a lot to write about. If I want to write about my writer's block, it's here. Many spiritual ideas are embodied in a writer's block. Are you laughing yet? No. Putting the writer's block aside. Another source for creativity among the holy books is sources of hymns. We have music in all of the faith traditions. Everyone chants. In Islam, they do too. Even though the new regime in Afghanistan is trying to suppress music, music stores are in danger. Musical instruments are in danger. They're being destroyed. Well, you still have your mind to hear pitch in your mind. You still have your own creative ideas to work with. Over my right shoulder here, I'm going to turn around for a moment. I have a little musical journal. This happens to be a Love Supreme, and I jotted down the key changes that John Coltrane went through. So I'm going to take his ideas and I'm going to manipulate them for ideas on my own. After Stravinsky, Igor Stravinsky, he's considered to be a Russian composer and an American composer. And he said a composer doesn't create, he steals, or she steals. The idea being, we're hearing music in our minds, we're hearing it in religious tradition, we're hearing it in secular tradition. It's all over the place. You can't go into an elevator without hearing music of some sort. The point I'm making, though, is that we have sound to work with as well as visual art and dancing. Well, we're all dancing. You dry your feet after a shower, you lift your leg. Hey, that's choreography. It can be if you want it to be. So all these creative ideas, coming back to spiritually, the creative use of our emotion can be very important for bringing our ideas into reality. I'm going to put this back for a moment. Another idea, taking an existing composition and working with it. This is by John Cage, and it's one of his many compositions. It's called Cheap Imitation. It was written for piano, but almost all the way through, it's a single line, which means any instrument can play almost all of this. So I'm reworking it for the flute. That's my second instrument. First one being my classical guitar. So what does this have to do with unity today? What does it have to do with our faith tradition in Christianity and other faith traditions? What does it have to do with it? Well, it expands our minds to look at these faith traditions, to look at unity from a different angle. How do people of other faith traditions look into unity? We know that the Jewish people can look at unity because we have quotes from their Torah. All of Christianity can look at it with their quotes from the New Testament, the life of Jesus. And everyone can abide by the Beatitudes that Jesus spoke, the 10 Commandments. Everyone has elements that they can identify with. So we don't have to screen people into unity. They're already connected with unity in some very subtle ways that possibly they are not involved with yet. Maybe they don't know yet. Well, I'd like to conclude the presentation I'm giving by just inspiring you, hoping it's an inspiration, to look beyond our faith, and coming back to it, we become stronger. We become stronger. Some of you might know that I was brought up in a Catholic home. I revered that faith tradition. I got away from it for a while. But then after I started studying mysticism on my own and studying it through a couple of different mystery schools, so-called mystery schools, I came back to my faith tradition part of the way. I say part of the way because in every faith tradition, there has been a little change over time. And these changes have not always been for the good. Sometimes the linguistic changes cut away some of the important literature or thought of the different faith traditions. So by exploring other reference books, we can come back to an original faith tradition or come back into unity from another angle, which will be very valuable. Another point, some of us were in the military. You learned about map reading. I've had map reading up to here, enough for 2 lifetimes, but it's a valuable skill. And when you want to find out where you are on the map, if you are misoriented, nobody's ever lost, we're just misoriented. You look at that mountain, you look at that benchmark, and you take a back azimuth. How many degrees back from it are you? And you do that a few times until your lines on the map intersect, and that's where you are. And that's where you are. And you're more solidly familiar with that place where you are, the more back azimuths you take with your compass. It gets stronger and stronger. So your faith will become stronger by seeing where we sit in this world of faith and where we sit in this world of creativity. So unless I think of something else, that's about it for my speaking. So I hope you see me. I hope you're listening, you good people. And I'm going to let the service roll forward now. And I wonder if you would like to interject now. Neil.